Uh, this is the 2023 Game of the Year Spectacular. So I'm gonna talk about my favorite games from last year. I'm really excited to do so. I have some hot takes. I almost feel like I was alone in this year, even though I'm generally a positive person. I feel like there's a lot of critical things to point out when it comes to 2023. In gaming, and some things though, in my opinion, like to support that I think 2023 was kind of a mid-year was really because a lot of what happened during COVID would impact this time frame specifically. So that's why we're really just seeing like remasters, remakes, updates, like the games that I really liked happen to be smaller games that don't require a large development time, large development cycle, and something like COVID could potentially mess that up. So, all right. So anyway, my name is Adam Blue, and I have 30 plus years in video game industry, playing video games or whatever. I like to say that because I feel like that backs up what I talk about. I turned 40 this year, and I think, even though age doesn't really matter, I think like, within my mind, it's like I'm hitting 40, and I was like looking back, and I went back to play a lot of older games I haven't played in a while, and realized how much fun I have with older games. And there's a lot of things from older games that I see in the newer successful games. I think Elden Ring is a good example of like a modern game that kind of holds on to more classic gameplay mechanics where things are systems based, right? And I'll talk about that with some of the games. So, let's just kick it off. I am not going to start with my favorite games. I'm actually going to start with games from previous years that I played this year and love. Let's see. For instance, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. That was a EIGA, I don't know. IGA is how you spell his name. He's the guy that was working on. I think he worked on Rondo of Blood, but mainly known for Symphony of the Night and kind of kicking off the Metroidvania style of Castlevania games. And I kickstarted it, and I just never got around to it. In fact, I think, during that time frame, I was just not playing a lot of classic games. There's a lot of good modern games coming out. But this year I had time. I played through Bloodstained. Love it. I think it looks like a Kickstarter game, and I don't mean to be mad about or mean about that. I guess what I've seen lately, and I've seen it with Sonic Superstars, is if you're going to use 3D polygonal assets, it's like you have to fully render them equally, because they'll have foreground and background where like maybe a lamppost is perfectly cylindrical, but maybe a background light bulb is an octagon. Because they're like, well, we'll diminish the resources required for assets when they're not front and center. But then it just doesn't look good, because then if you look at something like Super Mario Wonder, where the whole thing is consistent, all the rendering, the 3D assets are consistent, the game looks beautiful. It's hard to even say, oh, is that a 3D polygon game? It's just like a beautiful painting. So, like the Bloodstained gameplay, not too crazy about the way it looked. Another one, River City Girls, because I got back into the beat 'em up because of one of my top picks. I went back to play some beat 'em ups I missed. One was River City Girls, and it's really good. There are some parts of it that take, from the classic. It's interesting because even one of the games I'm going to talk about that I liked is from the same lineage, but went into the different direction. Like the River City Girls, takes after those Kunio-kun games, like specifically River City Ransom. And it is a lot like that, because there are times where enemies are not bullet sponges, but man, I hate it. I always see at least on my side, my camera doing these little skips every once in a while. And I don't think it's a big deal, but it bothers me. So I know I just got sidetracked. But these enemies, they're like fist sponges, where you're just attacking them forever, and then the leveling up you do, it's like very minor stuff, which it's whatever. Okay, it did it again, and that is just bugging me. But anyway, don't listen to me. Okay, what was another one? Castlevania. Oh wow, this has a similar theme. Grimoire of Souls. So this is because of Apple TV. I got Apple TV right at the end of last year, or the Apple TV box to do Apple Arcade. I don't own an iPhone, so I don't have any Apple device that has a phone number associated to it, and that's what Apple uses as the point of verification, which I am totally against. So, for instance, in the Game Center on my Apple TV, I can't use the friend system because I don't have a phone number tied to an account, and that's like kind of required. It's almost like Apple's really trying to verify their people that use their products, which I kind of complained about in a previous episode, because that means that Apple has built this like super private data cache that if, and hackers do this. I mean, to be honest, iOS devices are the least secure. They're able to get in there, quickly get what you need. Whereas if you're using Android, and because your phone number's not then tied to an Android account on an Android phone, like it's separately. You can have a Google account, and you don't even have to sign into your Google account. You can use some other account system based on the phone. But anyway, there's more degrees of separation where it's harder for attacker hackers to get a hole. Anyway, that's for another video. In fact, if you want to check the safety news channel, News with a Z on YouTube, I have a cybersecurity weekly special on there. That one has over 100,000 subscribers. That's the biggest channel I work on. So check that out if you're interested. Okay. So anyway, with the Castlevania game on Apple Arcade, it is amazing. I love it. I love it. It's interesting because on the surface, there are some things about it that are like, wait, this is mobile game-like, but at the same time, on Apple Arcade, no games on Apple Arcade are allowed to have microtransactions. It's all supposed to be where you're not paying for things. So I'm playing like a game that's made for as a game ground up, and they did the 3D graphics better than Bloodstain, in my opinion. The feel of the combat's better than Bloodstain, in my opinion. It's just the layout's a little different. Even though there's probably as much content in terms of walking around, it's not a Metroidvania to where it's like one continuous thing. It is broken up into levels. But what's cool about it is you get an overworld map of the levels, and in most levels, there's secrets you need to do to then unlock alternate paths. There's alternate paths everywhere. It's actually pretty awesome. And you're constantly leveling up your characters because you can use all the different characters from the timeline of Castlevania. It's created right from Japan. It doesn't have IGA, the guy that did the Symphony of the Night Metroidvania stuff, but it still has a lot of Konami people. The music is, I can't pronounce her name. I think it has an M in there somewhere. She does the music for it. The artwork is amazing. This is really a true Castlevania game. And I don't think most people know about this, because before that, what was the last one? We had Order of Ecclesia, and then that one that came out on Xbox Live Arcade. I forget the name of it. Something of Despair, maybe? Harmony? No. Harmony of Despair. Maybe that's what it was. And that was like the last one, because then after that, we had Mercury Steam make some like offshoot alternate universe Castlevania games, which the first one was fun, but they're not really my thing. But this one goes back to its roots. It is amazing. It's awesome. It's a full-on Castlevania game, and I haven't heard people talk about it, especially people online when it comes to the retro game stuff. Like, I wonder if just as I've aged and got into the, continue to get into gaming, there's then this little overlap where then it's a bunch of people that didn't grow up with that older stuff and don't care about it as much. So I'm not hearing that now as people are talking about games they're into or what people are excited about. But super missed opportunity for gamers out there. Like, yeah, I know, like, you'd have to get an Apple device for it. But what's really cool is I use the Apple TV. I have it plugged into my, what is it called? The Camlink 4K, and I use OBS to display it. So I had it on the TV, but I like to have it at my computer so I can play. So it's like I can play on my computer while still doing stuff on my computer I needed to. Like the other day, I was in the Discord for Gundam Explained. Everyone's like playing Gundam or just hanging out, and then I was playing the Ninja Turtle game, which is awesome. I would mention that actually on here because although that came out last year, I think. I need to put that as an honorable mention. It's like Hades, but with Ninja Turtles. It's crazy. Okay. And then lastly, the other game that I played a whole ton that didn't come out, although in a way some of the other things I'm going to mention didn't necessarily come out last year, but I'll get to that. But Division 2. You know, I liked the first Division game. I played a little bit of the second one. And then I was just in the mood for that type of mechanics, the gunplay mechanics, because that developer, oh my gosh, I forgot them off the top of my head. They just came out with Avatar. They're going to come out with Star Wars Outlaws. They know how to make a game. And Division 2 lacked variety in terms of what you're doing. Like, again, I think truly open world is not necessary for everything. But Division 2 just feels great. It really does. And I was actually waiting for that expansion to come out, Homeland, and it didn't yet. Hopefully it still does. It's like a survival thing in the suburbs. Hey, doggy. Let's see. So yeah, that's it from previous years. Let's see. Let's go on to honorable mentions. So I'm not going to talk too much about each one. And here's the thing, like, I played a lot of games this year, but I just didn't find them all that interesting. Actually, let me go to let me finish that, and then I'm going to go to disappointments. So honorable mentions: GoldenEye, the re-release on Xbox or wherever, I think everywhere, I forget actually. Playing it, I think it still holds up. It was a lot of fun. I didn't play through it all, but I played a lot. I was like, actually, this is still really fun. It has good mechanics. Okay, Kirby Return to Dreamland. So that was a Wii release that got re-released on the Switch, right? But on top of that, there's this new guy named like Magalore or something. I don't know. There's this new character. It's not a Kirby character. Like, he has different moves. And they gave him his own campaign. And I don't think people understand this, that within Kirby Return to Dreamland is a whole other side-scrolling game with a whole other character that has different abilities, and it is a lot of fun. And I was really playing through that quite a bit, like as in like every day. I think that doesn't always happen with those types of games, but that's a good one. I just wanted to bring it up because I think people are gonna have missed that. In the first place, I think some people are just missing Return to Dreamland, which is a great game on its own, but then that other whole game that's within it. Yeah, actually, let me look that up real quick. So, Return to Dreamland. It's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Let's see. Magalore is this like helper that's in that game. But, and then there's the thing, I didn't play the Merry Magoland, which is like Mario Party, but Kirby stuff. And then, that's it. The Magalore Epilogue, The Interdimensional Traveler. Let me just show this real quick. Yeah, a brand new story starring Magalore. And, yeah, it's just, to me, that's not going to work. To me, it's just crazy that, it's not crazy. I see this a lot where a lot of these games just get overlooked. And it's just too bad. Yeah, it's because I think when you jump, you have this limited flight thing, and then you're shooting, you're unlocking skills. Like, it's a full-on badass game. Like, even looking at it reminding me, it's 4-player too. Yeah, just looking at it reminds me of just how much fun I had with that. Yeah, that's that. Okay, so going back to my list. Okay, so Armored Core 6. That was fun, but it was just okay. In terms of Armored Core games, this was the least convoluted and obtuse. I was able to get through the game rather quickly. I didn't like how each mission was just super short. I didn't feel like I had to do. I feel like the game was really built around the PvP, and they just threw some missions, some campaign missions to play along the way, and it's just okay. It's not a bad game at all. In fact, there's a lot of good stuff about it, but to me, it's just basic. Turbo Overkill. So I had played this before, but I think the official release was this year. That's a fun boomer shooter. That's really all I can say about that. And speaking of boomer shooters, Quake 2 the Machine Games campaign. You know, Machine Games is under Bethesda. They've been helping with some of the id Software stuff like Wolfenstein. They made a Quake 2 campaign. Again, super fun, probably easily overlooked. Just an awesome brand new campaign with Quake 2 that just played really well. And then speaking of Quake, in Quake 1, it released a Doom conversion. It's a free add-on, and it's pretty much playing Doom 1 with Doom 1 assets in Quake, and it's amazing. It's Doom or Doom 2. I forget now, actually. But anyway, I blur those two games together. I played them so much when I was younger. But anyway, it feels so good. It feels so good. And it's like one of the games that are actually in my top. I have a top 7. I know that's weird, but it's the only 7 games that I think like changed my life. Okay, RoboCop. Honorable mention because I'm shocked how that game turned out. It's not super amazing to me because it's still like it's more of a Fallout game, you know, like that type of game because there's a lot of story and dialogue and so that stuff bores me. But when it comes to recreating the whole atmosphere of RoboCop, it's probably one of the best Unreal Engine 5 games to come out this year. Check out Digital Foundry. They did a look at it. I mean, it looks amazing. It looks real. It's incredible. But everything else about it, just being RoboCop, like it's what I like about a video game when it's based on a source material where it feels more like you're in it. So check that out. Another one that's like that is Avatar. I don't care about the Avatar movies, but the game is made by that other developer. I can't believe I forgot their name again. You know, that talked about the Division 2, Star Wars Outlaws. And it's like a Far Cry in the Avatar world. And to be honest, I liked the controls and the UI. Like, it's a little different in a way than other things, but it really worked for me. I just haven't played too much more of it yet because here's the thing. When playing an open world game, sometimes I can be easily bored if it is just completely open world, and so I have to spend more time exploring places to explore rather than just getting to where I need to explore. And I'm going to use a game in my top 7 that does it right. There's a few, actually. I'll get to that. Remnant 2. Remnant 2. That one is pretty good. I just the way the campaign played out wasn't exactly what I like. I just want to say, and I think this is the big deal, Remnant 1 was sold as a Souls-like. It's not with guns. It's not a Souls-like at all. It's just a Warframe-like, a Destiny-like, Division-like. That's what it is. Remnant 2, though, different developer, really nailed down the mechanics, made it feel excellent. And yeah, the thing is, I just would sometimes get bored. A lot of the environments, depending on the world you're in, look the same. I think there wasn't anything about the world or the story that grabbed me to be interested in playing a fun game within whatever that world is. I don't know if that makes sense. Oh, and then, yeah, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splinter something. I'm bad with names of these games. Again, another Apple Arcade game. It's just like Hades. You do a run, and you go as far as you can, and then when you die, you got to start over. But then you get all these things that you've unlocked to, like, level up things. Then you go to run through again, but it's so different because you have all these unlocks. Then there's also the bosses. Like, after a certain amount of time, in a run, the bosses will play a little different, which I really liked. So, and then, yeah, there's the different characters you can play, and they all have different moves. Shocked. I am shocked that just like the Castlevania game, I'm shocked that these aren't ported to PC or console. These are like mainline games of big IP. It could be just one of those things where Apple wanted that IP, and so they're like, hey, we'll pay for development of this game. And that's interesting because both with Castlevania and TMNT, you know, they do it where the game is based around not having microtransactions. It's just a fun game. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, I wish I got to the Apple TV earlier in this year. I mainly got it for the Sonic game, which, I didn't add that on here, did I? Yeah, that's supposed to be another one of my honorable mentions because one of my disappointments is related. But, you know, the Sonic Dream Team on Apple Arcade, is a great Sonic game. It reminds me of like a Sonic Adventure, but like bite-sized chunks of levels. It's kind of like what the Castlevania game did, where it's like it's not just one giant big open world or whatever, but it's all these little areas, and it's just fun. And then in the Sonic game, you unlock characters that you can switch on the fly, which is awesome. Shocked about these games coming to Apple Arcade that are not on PC or console. No one's going to know about them when it comes to the people that matter, which are like people that are really into gaming, because then they're able to be more vocal about what they want out of future iterations of these IPs. But we get Sonic Superstars on the consoles and PC, yet we get Sonic Dream Team on Apple Arcade. It just, yeah. Okay. I want to talk about my disappointments for this year. The main one is Tears of the Kingdom. And it's not that it's a bad game. It's just not the Zelda game I wanted. And I know what it's doing, because what's popular right now that I appreciate is the game's systems to be creation-based. Roblox is real big with this. Fortnite is real big with this. Nintendo knew that, so because this is not like technically a next proper mainline Zelda game, it's kind of like the Majora's Mask treatment, where they're like, well, we'll just take the engine we made and just do this with it. And what they did was neat. I liked, how crazy it was, either going way up in the sky or down under the ground, like anywhere. There's something to do, something to see, and a lot of it was like building things. And like, again, that's fun, but when I want to sit down and go through an adventure, I'm not as interested in spending my time building unless it's like resource management for like an RTS or something like that. Not just a building game. And I know that even with one of the dungeons I played, like I saw that there's ways where you can kind of like get out of it if you can like game the system by like, okay, well, I can build this sort of contraption to like just quickly get to the next part. And I kind of didn't like that, because it almost felt like I wasn't doing what the developer was intending people to do. And I really think it depends. Like for kids, excellent game, because kids' minds are going to be blown trying to figure out how to build stuff. But for veteran gamers that are already used to like games where you do build, games with physics, like physics were a big thing since like I think it was Half-Life 2, where games were started implementing physics into games a certain way. You get to a point where it's like, yeah, I get it. It's not really anything new. I'm going to move on. Like I hear about how much people liked Tears of the Kingdom, but it's never based on what it does for the Zelda franchise. It's just based on like, oh, you can just build this. You can go anywhere and build all this stuff and craft and all that. And again, that's great. Disappointing me. Another disappointment, which I should have known, Starfield. Like I knew the type of game it was supposed to be, and I was just like, yeah, it's not for me. It's kind of that Fallout style game. And when I say Fallout, I mean like the more, recent 3D iterations of Fallout, not like the old school Fallout or Skyrim. And it just stuck to that. It's that kind of that janky interaction with the world. And people still complain about it. It didn't really win any awards. People didn't really care. In fact, I think it won something on Steam Awards, and then people like posted all this crap about it, review bombed it, maybe, I forget. But my disappointment in it is the fact that I thought this was going to be the next gen game that would be exclusive to Xbox. Even if I don't like the type of gameplay, like it's like, I mean, I didn't even play through all of Cyberpunk, and I think Cyberpunk is better than Starfield, just in terms of what it's a first person shooter in a future world where you have to interact with the environment and kind of make your own adventure. That's the mechanics of it. That's the system it's based in. And it was just, no, they just took, a 10-year-old Fallout game and just put a skin on it. It's crazy. Like Redfall and then Starfield, like what is going on? I don't know. And then my last disappointment, Sonic Superstars. I bought that day one to play, and I played it. I got pretty far in it, actually. I'm actually near the end. It's just ugly, for one, and even the design of the maps, it's more of like assets are just placed around just to make it where, okay, this is a path. It's not really like fully realized and like, okay, this is this zone. It's going to look like this. Here are some ways to maneuver in the map that's kind of in context to where you're at. And then the bosses. The worst bosses ever. You have to wait for these patterns to finish and then you can do one attack. And then you just kind of wait. So bosses will take forever. And if it's your first time at a certain boss that has a certain pattern, and you mess up and die, and then you got to do it again, it's like, is that even fun to keep trying? And then what really cemented my feelings on it is, Mario Wonder came out just 5 days later, or a week later, I forget it. Better game by so much. If you're going to take a classic 2D side-scroller game and modernize it, it's easy to look at both Mario and Sonic and be like, yeah, Mario did it, Sonic, what? And then so the Sonic Dream Team comes out on Apple Arcade, and I'm like, well, I need to play that because I didn't get my Sonic fill, and it is a lot better. It's crazy how fun that Sonic Dream Team game is. Yeah, so Sonic Superstar's big disappointment. All right, so I want to talk about game of the years. The games of the year of 2023. What are my favorite games that came out in 2023 that I think are awesome? And it's a weird list because, again, I think overall I was a little disappointed in 2023. Just, I mentioned it before. It's mainly like sequels, remakes. I think this year it was affected by COVID. It's like, the development cycles kind of messed up. And so for what came out this year, it's like, this is really all we got. So I have it's oddly numbered, but I would say it's kind of even. I think the middle ones could be switched around, but number 7 is the Sniper Elite 5 DLC. The Sniper Elite 5 DLC maps that came out in 2023 were more fun than most games that came out in 2023. That game, I've noticed with Rebellion, when they come out with a game and then they start coming out with DLC, usually by the time you get to the last DLC maps that they release, it is so tight. Like, in terms of the design, they'll, add some new things that you're not expecting. And in fact, that would go to games I played from previous years. I went back to Sniper Elite 4 after I beat 5 just to play through it again and beat it all. Because after playing the DLC map Sniper Elite 5, I just had to get more of that fixed. Because it is a systems-driven game that's hidden under realistic-looking things like, a sniper rifle, a grenade, satchel. There's these little things that just seem like it's typical for an action game. But no. Each element corresponds with the world and how you approach the world. And, I love when I come up with a plan, I go to enact it, but I die, and then I come back and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do something completely different. I love that about the Sniper Elite 5 game. Very systems-driven, very open. I prefer my games like this, but also very tight because it's not a complete open world. They're open maps. So the developers are working within a constrained area to, how can we, pack so much fun into a small area, and they nail it. And that's what is working with Sonic Dream Team on Apple Arcade instead of some bigger open world thing. Even though not all Sonic's open world, even Frontiers did it where it's condensed. They have the smaller maps to play. The Castlevania game, instead of an open world, it's missions. And what I like about it is I'll beat a mission and I didn't do all the challenges or find all the secrets or use the right character. So I'll go back and it'll be a slightly different experience, or I can do different things. So so those games are made to be replayed. When you're in an open world environment, not every step of the open world is made to be replayed. It's just made to be there as part of the exploration to get where you are. So again, I prefer open maps because of that, and that actually will lead to the next part. So number 6, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I'm going to say 2 and 3. So Modern Warfare 2, I played a lot of last year, or the year before when it came out, 2022. I usually do that. Call of Duty comes out, I play for the first month, I'm done. And then once they started releasing all this awesome stuff in Modern Warfare 2, it was like the Doom super shotgun, Ash as a character to play. I went back in and I had so much fun playing it again. And then with Modern Warfare 3 coming out, they were like, well, we're just going to make it where it's 2 and 3 work together. So everything you get in 2, you can use in 3. And 3 added some new things. Like, I think it was funny how much people were dogging on the campaign. I'm sure you get the first person that complains about it, then everyone kind of jumps on board. It's like groupthink that occurs even at the Game Awards. Someone that went up to present something made a comment about it not being that good. It's actually fine, and actually it innovates in some areas that first-person shooters, mainstream first-person shooters need to do. I think that's why we're not seeing a lot of mainstream first-person action shooters, because they stopped innovating. And what Modern Warfare 3 does, it has these open missions, which again, it's a map. You can go at it however you want, explore, get some items and some stuff. It was a lot of fun, to me, Call of Duty is like not top tier in terms of like what I'm looking for in video games, but it has the satisfying feeling of playing a first-person shooter, unlocking weapons, configuring my weapon to make my play style. Like, it got near the end with Modern Warfare 3, because I haven't played it in a couple weeks, where I unlocked this awesome attachment that made it where I had a flamethrower. So I'm going around these maps just torching people, and it was fun. It was different than most Call of Duty. So I got to hand it to Call of Duty. I spent so much time on 2 and 3 that I would say, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, here's one that's kind of weird for me. It's Dead Island 2, and the only reason it's weird is because I started it at the end of the year, and I've played most of it during the new year. So I've gotten to the point to where I'm cool with, when it comes to Game of the Year, if I don't get to some of them until later, or maybe the beginning of the next year. Just because when we look at the Game Awards, there's so many games near the end of the year that are just left off, not talked about, not part of the conversation. When things are not part of the conversation in the first place, that's just kind of disappointing. Even if the conversation is a critical analysis and not positive praise or something like that. So yeah, Dead Island 2, I remember reading the reviews when it came out, people said it's fine, it's fun, and I'm playing I really like it because it's linear. It's not a complete open world game. There's a lot of exploring you can still do. And the main thing about this, and the developers must have been super smart when they made this game, it is a systems-based game. Like Sniper Elite 5, the systems are like hidden underneath what the game is. Because as you're walking around the world, you can manipulate water, fire, acid damage. There's also like oil. And all this stuff is like, you'll see canisters of water that you can dump out, and it never empties. Because the idea is, yeah, this stuff is everywhere for you to use. I'll see like a circuit breaker, pull it out, a battery out of a car, you could pull it out, combine that with some water, electrify some zombies. There's even this area where the zombies were all in the water in the sewers coming at me. I have a baton that has electricity on it. I hit it with the water, electrified them all. It's just a systems-driven game, and you don't realize it. But once you realize that, the game becomes fun. I even got to a part now in the game where there's so much more like you can do when it comes to upgrading your weapons. I don't want to spoil it because it changes the game from feeling like just a typical Dead Island zombie game. And then like another ability they added that, again, it's different than what's typical, and it's like really fun. So Dead Island, it's kind of weird that I threw that in there because it was late in, but I just, there's not many games that came out in 2023 that lit me up like Dead Island 2 did. Okay, another one is Bolt Gun. Bolt Gun is one that I played later in the year. It came out, I think, in May. This is the Warhammer Boomer Shooter. The controls are flawless. Like, I'm a mouse and keyboard guy, but I was also, because I've been dabbling in all these new controllers this year, I wanted to test out my controllers, and it just felt so good with a gamepad. I think not only are they designing it for mouse and keyboard, but also thinking about the gamepad, and it feels so good. Great. There's only one complaint I have with the game, and that's the boss battles. They're just bullet sponges that are gigantic. There's no like puzzle element or phases. It's just it might take 20 minutes to finally kill, maybe not 20, but so I'm just circling around the map, shooting, getting that health down, and then I accidentally die, and it's like, oh, I gotta do that again. Shooting, just waiting. So that's the only complaint. Otherwise, bolt gun's amazing. All right, getting. Yeah, I guess this could be my top 3, perhaps. Number 3 would be Super Mario Wonder. Excellent game. My wife, she doesn't play games all the time, but every once in a while a game will get her. This game got her for sure, and it got me. Ton of fun. I would say it's more of a Super Mario World sequel. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's like the direction I would want Mario to go in the future. I feel like it's like they took Super Mario World and threw the kitchen sink at it. And they're like, well, let's just make everything have some weird gimmick somewhere. Which is great. I was just hoping some like more of an innovative approach to side-scrolling that Nintendo tend to do with the 2D side-scrolling Marios, although it just might be where that's now the 3D stuff, or even the Mario Odyssey wasn't necessarily as big of a deal as like Galaxy. And then before that, Mario 64, because even Sunshine was just okay. Yeah, Super Mario Wonder, I mean, it's nearly the perfect game. It's just so fun, tight controls, each level is different, there's always something you can do. The multiplayer's okay, even though they took out the bumping into each other, you still have... The game became a little more fast-paced like a Sonic game. In fact, Sonic Superstars can take a lot of cues from this Mario Wonder. But in it, it's so fast a lot of times that, like, if you're with other players that are a little slower, they're going to be left behind. But the other multiplayer feature they have that's awesome is the racing, and that is hilarious as heck. You'll need multiple switches for it, but I feel like that could be a fun party game when people are over to do the Mario racing, because you're just running through the track trying to get to the end. And those levels are a little shorter and faster, so it's quick and fun. Okay, my number two game of the year is Gundam Battle Operation 2. It's so even though that game really came out like what in 2018, 2019 on PlayStation in Japan, the PC version got ported this year. Why would a PC version of a 5-year-old game why would a PlayStation game get ported 5 years later on PC? Because the game is actually good. The game is low-key better than most games that are out there. It's got the tightest, like, controls. It's got the hit boxes are amazing. 400 mobile suits that play different with different skills. There is no game out there that exists like Gundam Battle Operation 2. No game. I might be a Gundam fan. The only reason I know about this game is because I got into Gundam and I was like, well, what Gundam games exist? And I played this game. I'm like, what is this game? Like, it's like when I get excited about Dark Souls combat, like this game carries that idea forward, deliberate animations. You're having to like juggle your different weapon types as the resource. You're having to use weapons in certain order in order to cause stuns to enemies. So then you can come in for some melee. I mean, and then there's space combat, ground combat. Every week they have a new suit that's added, which is insane. New maps. They started new modes recently called situation battles, which are awesome because it's pretty much like where it's taking it from the shows and the movies where you get a random mobile suit, but it's based on that side you're on. So that's usually Xeon or Earth Federation. But it's like within that, it's like, okay, I've got this suit. I have to learn how to, use it. And not only that, but like on my Gundam Explained channel in my Discord server, there could be 10 plus people in the GBO2 voice server playing. Lately, I've been jumping in to talk with those people. It's been so much fun. Like, and there's just so much more on top of the game that, like, it's weird. It's one of those things. If you don't care about Gundam, you're not going to care about the game. So that's why, like, they should just call it Mech Simulator 2000 or something, and then people will be like, "Oh, what's this game? Oh, mechs. Oh, it's awesome." But no, people be like Gundam, and they might avoid it or whatever. But like, it's why it is the live service game of the year for sure. I mean, sure, there's Fortnite, Warframe, those are the big ones, but Gundam Operation 2 has been a free-to-play live service game since it came out, and it hasn't stopped yet. There's even more stuff coming soon to it that's pretty awesome that I'm not at liberty to talk about. Like, the game is successful because it is good, and it makes them money. That reminds me, if I was going to talk about disappointments, maybe how like Gundam Evolution shut down this year, and again, I'm a big Gundam fan, but I didn't really like that game that much. It was okay. It was fun for what it is, but it's not what I wanted. That might help you understand why, like, I like Gundam Battle Operation 2, whether it is Gundam or not. It is a good effing game. And I have it on Steam and PlayStation, and I use my ROG Ally. I have a video on my my Gundam Explained channel where, like, not only do I show you could play, I can remote into my PlayStation and play Gundam Battle Operation 2, or just play it on Steam on my ROG Ally. But yeah, it's just the fact that I can be anywhere, log in, play that game, do the dailies, get the tokens. It's, man, the game, and then all the holiday stuff they do. It's a great game. I don't know if there's any much more I could say about it. I wish it was talked about more in, like, in the gaming zeitgeist, like when across, any of those main gaming, I hate to say journalists, influencers, I think is the word, because it's not really you're a journalist anymore. What you're doing is you talk about games online, and if you do it with enough confidence and you're interesting, people will then follow your work, and then there you go. But no one talks about Gundam Battle Operation 2. It's a shame, because, like, that is a gamer's game, 100% a gamer's game. Okay. Moving on, my favorite game of 2023 is Double Dragon Gaiden. That's right, Double Dragon Gaiden. I have a full playthrough on my channel here, showing the game. It's taken the beat-em-up genre and modernized it way more than I expected them to do it. It has some roguelike elements in terms of when you're starting a game, which it kind of makes sense, like, because you unlock or you obtain tokens that you can use as continues. So it's almost works like that old school way, but you got to earn them. But the game just, you go through it, and there's 5 levels total, but the first 4, you can go at them at any order. But then the next one will be longer and have more stuff, and the bosses will play differently. And it continues that way. So you play through it multiple times to play the different paths to see all the different ways the levels can unfold. And then you unlock stuff. It's just, the controls are excellent. The mechanics of doing the beat 'em up stuff, chaining together the right amount of combos and KOs to maximize the money you get, the credits, tokens, whatever. It's an excellent game. It's not like I spent as much time with that game as I did the others, but it hit me hard when I played that game. I was like, this game is so fun. And I bought it. It was given to me by my brother for Xbox, and then I wanted to also play it on PC at the time, so I bought it again. And then I even bought it for, I think, a couple other people, because that tells me how much I like a game. Sure, that I didn't spend as much time in that as I did Gundam Battle Operation 2, but I liked it so much that I bought copies for other people, because it's a great game that needs to be played. So that's it. My 2023 hot takes. I really think it was a letdown of a year, in my opinion. The cool things that happened were more of the I don't know. It almost seems like the cool things that happened were more of like the extra fluff that you want to get, like, yeah, Battle Operation 2 on PC, you know? Yeah, Super Mario Wonder, a sequel to 2D Mario, sure. It's not like it was some new game that I mean, yeah, if I look at like Dead Island 2, Bolt Gun is the only one that seems to be its own thing, but I guess the difference with that was it's just played as a boomer shooter, so it's not like it's doing anything new or different. Yeah, this year was a little bit of a letdown, I gotta say. I'm not too hopeful about next year either, just because I think 2024 is also affected by not only the pandemic, but then this last year with the economy, so many companies laying off, so many projects being shelved. 2024 is gonna be a little weird. Yeah, I can't wait for. The only thing I'm hoping about in 2024 is the announcement of the Switch 2 and whatever Nintendo has up their sleeve. So. Well, anyway, guys, that is it for this episode. I am going to stop streaming and check out why my camera does that little jump every once in a while where it like skips a frame. It's not a big deal, and as I'm watching it, it's not doing it, but it annoys me. So I hope you all have a good weekend. Let me know below what your top favorite game. It doesn't have to be 5. It could be your one favorite game, or it could be your top 100. Yeah, because maybe I can go through that on a podcast. That'd be cool to see what you guys think. Anyway, we will talk later.
Bluecast.